Korean modern art starts around 1880s. So I want to explain to you a few transitions. So Korean Joseon dynasty, even though they made Neo-Confucianism as their political principle, Buddhism continuously venerated. And then Buddhism eventually conflated or combined with shamanism. And going back to shamanism, can you imagine when shamanism started in Korean history? It goes way back to Gojoseon or Three Kingdoms. Remember, like kings of Three Kingdoms, they have their own shamanic powers, right? Like with golden crowns or bronze mirrors. These were all symbols of their supernatural powers. So shamanism has a deep root. So even though Buddhism was spread through the end of Three Kingdoms, throughout the Goryeo and Joseon dynasty, people still practiced shamanism. So the one you are looking at on the right side is the actual shaman. Let me see my pencil. This is the actual shaman. So these days, there are shamans that you can visit and ask your fortune, or you can ask her advice on major events in your life. You know, do I have to move to New York? You know, is it a good idea? But at the same time, these kind of shamans, they perform for the audiences. So this is at a large performing arts center. So she's performing. But we talked about this kind of shamanistic rituals in Joseon dynasty in relation to Shinyeonbok's painting, right? Shamanistic rituals. So if you come to shamanism, the image on the left, this is the shamanic god. His name is Sanshin, the mountain god, right in the middle. And he always has his tiger because he rides the tiger as the mountain god. And then he has other attendees, like these ladies are helping him. And then you have other symbols of longevity, like a deer or crane, or here you have a tortoise. So traditionally, people also venerated Sanshin, mountain gods, for giving them auspicious fortune. These are mushrooms that will give you long life. You sometimes see a salesperson for healthcare products, and they say, "Oh, you know, like a mountain god, you know, would have taken this, and he lived for tens of thousands of years." And you will buy the healthcare products from the mountain god. Anyhow, this is a very persistent tradition that it is very difficult to eradicate. But the point I am addressing is, so Japanese colonial government, when they came in 1910, they are not going to condone this type of folk traditions. So 1910 to 1945, they are not going to allow this kind of long-lasting traditions. Or tightrope walking, 줄타기. This is more like a J, like a 줄타기. This is a favorite pastime even for the Shilla people. So you have these folk games coming from as early as Three Kingdoms period. And throughout the Joseon dynasty, this became a popular public entertainment. When you go to the marketplace, again, market only opens 5 days in a row or 3 days in a row in a month. You will trade your goods, your products, but you will also see this kind of entertainment. It's wonderful, you know, that somebody can walk along the one rope without even protection underneath. So Korea also had this type of troubadour or performing troops, right? And if you watch movie called Kingsman, I don't know whether it's available on the Netflix. You will see a group of people providing this kind of entertainment to the royal family as well as young families, also for ordinary citizens in the marketplace, you will see those things. But this type of tradition, folk traditions, was also discontinued during the Japanese colonial period of 1910 to 1945. People gathering together in a large group was considered dangerous, and that was a political political demonstration to the Japanese government. So these people eventually lost their traditions. And then modern Korea was introduced to European media in this kind of forms. So in France, French people came to Korea around 1871. They had some military confrontation with the Korean people. And this is Jaemulpo, and this means Incheon. Like these days, if you go to international airport to visit Seoul or South Korea, you often land in Incheon airport. So Jaemulpo is an older name for Incheon. That was a harbor city. If you go a little bit far from Incheon, then you will see Ganghwa Island. So it's close. So these areas are where foreign naval ships would arrive. Like these are Japanese or maybe large boat for passengers. They arrive and do some trade. So by 1891, France was only allowed to stay in Incheon or Jaemulpo area, like the same town. And you can see that they built some European buildings. These are predominantly Korean-style buildings with tiled roof, but some areas there were stores that sell European goods. So they would sell men's shoes, leather shoes, or they would sell hats or wristwatches. They would sell those kind of modern products. Anyhow, this is meant for French audiences in French newspaper. So what you are looking at here is they are selling these products, and this is some sort of meat products. I don't know what kind of meat that is, but Pyun is like a meat. So it is a meat product from Korea, and Goreng de qualité means it is guaranteed quality of Korea. And then there is a man. It looks a bit like a Korean man, right? But face is a little imagined because it's created by a graphic designer in France. And they were selling this kind of products. So there are some diplomatic and trade relationships in the 19th century, but until then, as you can see, until like 1871, there was a war with France and other people, and then until 1970s, Korean people maintained a closed door policy. I talked to you about this closed door policy. But then they realized that they cannot stay that way forever. So Gojong, who had been a king for a long time, he decided to modernize the country with own governmental initiative. So that is from the Gabo reform, and a lot of changes takes place in 1905. So government officers, they are going to adopt modernized clothes. If you read my paper, it's addressed a little bit there. And then, but things were going well. So the wife, the Empress of Gojong, was killed in 1895. And then Russo-Japanese War, Russia and Japan started a war, but they fought in Korean Peninsula. So you can imagine, it's not my own war, but my own country was used for the war, right? Like how upsetting that is. So eventually, China, the Japan took over Korea. So now from 1910 to 1945, there was no country named Joseon or Korea. They were only citizens of Japan at the time.